Video, I'm going to teach you how to shift within the simulation and change what you consent to being true of your world, because that's what's being pushed out. Everything is you pushed out, but it's based on what you believe and consent to being true of your world through experiences. Subconscious impressions that have been made in your past are what's creating everyone and everything in your life. You're truly right now in a dream state. But when you begin to awaken, you start to be able to manifest anything you want to come into your life. Anything you want, you can manifest it and come into your life simply by knowing that you're living in a simulation. It's all being created from within you. And when you start experiencing the glitches within the simulation, that instantly changes your world. As soon as you experience a real glitch in the simulation, and you see it and you know that you created it with your imagination, what you fell asleep with. You know that you created that in that moment. You shift in the simulation, and everything that you consent to being true of your world changes. It changes right in that instant moment, and everything is you pushed out changes, because that is based on what you consent to being true. Everything is you pushed out. And when you know you're living in a simulation, everything changes. Everything changes. This is why Neville Goddard talked about the ladder exercise and falling asleep doing different things that you want to be doing. You start experiencing climbing ladders, even though you're refusing to climb them. I know a lot of people that I've talked to didn't have a chance to do the ladder exercise because they see ladders everywhere anyways, but they've done other things. Like, if you don't have ladders in your life, imagine yourself throwing a football or do something that you don't ordinarily do or ordinarily see. Like, you never see this thing. Like, think of something in your life that you never do and you never see. It never comes into your reality. Start imagining that as you're falling asleep at night. And the moment, and if you really do this, like you set out to do this, you start imagining this and picturing it in your mind. You're climbing this ladder, you're throwing this football, you're playing tennis, you're doing something that you never do. And then you fall asleep doing it, and all of a sudden, something comes into your life, or someone comes into your life and says, hey, they throw a football at you and you catch it. Or whatever it may be. Whatever it may be. All of a sudden, and in that instant moment, you have that deja vu. You get that moment. You ever had that feeling of deja vu? Because you've relived it in your imagination before. You created that event to happen. You saw that event before it happened. That's what deja vu is. Whenever you have that feeling, when you go somewhere, you meet someone, you're like, I've met this person before. It's because you did meet that person. You created that person, that scene that you're actually in that moment. You manifested it you saw it in your own imagination before it happened. Everything that you do, you see in your imagination before it happens. But are you consciously aware and know what you're imagining? And when you can master this through your attention, present moment awareness, you start to master the simulation. These are points. Deja vu proves it for me. It's another thing where I know I'm living in a simulation, and that imagination creates the simulation. I know that because I see these things all the time. I get those feelings. I'm like, I've been here before. I bought that before. I've had this before. I've lived this life before. It's because I imagined it before it happened. And when it happened, boom, there it is. I had that in my imagination. I saw that. I remember that now. I remember when I imagined that. Maybe I wasn't conscious of it when it happened, but there's this way you can intentionally start changing things, everything that happens to you in your life. You can start changing it by mastering your ability to imagine. Start imagining things in your life that you want. And when you start, but the point of this video is, everyone here that watches me every day knows what to do. But what I'm teaching you in this video is that you quantum shift. You shift huge, massive realities. The moment you realize that you are living in a simulation, you truly believe that through seeing glitches in your reality. When you start having this in these deja vus, and you're like, I imagine this. Okay, so I fell asleep doing this and this just happened. I know it's not a coincidence anymore. I know it's not a coincidence. In that instant moment, that's when everything changes. That's why I push the exercises so much about the ladder exercise and falling asleep, doing things in your imagination, because you're going to start to experience these things. You're going to start seeing these things happen in the simulation because you are the projector. The world is the projection. Without the projector, there is no projection. Without the projector, there's no projection. This is the screen. You're the projector. Whatever you can manipulate what's being projected onto the screen with your imagination. And the moment you know that you're living in a simulation and you're by yourself, there's no one around. No one is around. And you feel this. You say, I know I created that because I fell asleep doing that and it happened exactly like that. And I've done this now 5 times, and 2 of the times or 3 of the times it happens or something very similar to that happens. Eventually something will happen identical and you'll start experiencing these deja vu moments because sometimes the mind is tricky, your imagination, but if you start to manipulate it as you're going to sleep at night, these things are going to come up in your life, things that are very similar to that, or other things that are inextricably intertwined with the imaginal acts and the inner dialogues that you have that connect to the universe as you're falling asleep. And you're not aware of what those things are, but when they happen, you're like, oh, I imagined that before, deja vu. You get goosebumps because you imagined that to happen. And I can't stress this enough. I want everyone to experience that you're living in a simulation. That this is a high-tech simulated game where you are an avatar that has gained consciousness within the game. And now you can control the program. You can control the program by doing this. So I want you, even if it's something very simple, even if it's, say you have a friend of yours that never says a certain word, or get someone that, imagine somebody sneezing 5 times in a row. My grandfather did that. He told me he would mess with people to figure out the glitches in the simulation. He would imagine or just go into a brief meditation in the state akin to sleep or the drift. He would catch himself in that state, that relaxed state where he's controlling his imagination, and he would picture someone, like someone that never curses. He would imagine this person saying the worst curse words in his imagination. Then that person, right when he saw him, would start cursing, and he would laugh. And the person would say, "Why were you laughing?" He said, "You wouldn't understand. You wouldn't, and it wouldn't matter if I told you." Or he used to imagine people sneezing 5 times or 3 times. It never happens. And then when he sees that person, all of a sudden that person sneezes 5 times because he imagined it. Changing, manipulating your reality creates the fundamental or the foundational belief and experience within yourself that you're living in a simulation right now, and that you can manipulate and change it. The better you get at holding your attention on an imaginal act with a feeling state in where you're presently aware of what you are, and knowing that you're living in a simulation, those 3 things combined take you to the next level. And as soon as you start experiencing the glitches, you start seeing the huge shifts. The huge shifts in your world. Like, you will instantly shift. Let me fix this camera. You will instantly shift, okay? As soon as you start experiencing these glitches to happen, and you say to yourself, I know I created that. That in that moment, everything changes. Everything that you consent to being true shifts right in that moment. You have completely shifted in that moment. Like, you'll notice huge changes, like within what you consent to being true, and then because whatever you consent to being true changes everything as you pushed out into the simulation. Then the projection changes, the screen changes, because the projector has now changed its beliefs about its world, and you'll start to see instant changes. So start falling asleep doing things like that, and testing and experimenting, seeing the glitches. That way you know that you're living in a simulation. Start counting $100 bills as you're going to sleep. Anything. I want everyone to experience. I know we have a lot of new listeners, new watchers as well. And I want each and every one of you also to experience this. Got my McLaren behind me. I put a new decal on the hood there, or on the windshield. I like it. I love that car. Wow, it's fast. The simulation. Create whatever you want. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.